Welcome back, everyone. This is Dominic Alive 90.5, the Hypnic Show. Very shortly, James Liotta will be on. But just before we do have him on air, just a quick thing about him. Performer, comedian, TV, radio host, producer, presenter, has his own podcast, and he's also one of the biggest MCs that is in demand across Sydney and across Australia. And with a bit of luck, James Liotta is on air. Are you there, James?
I am, Dominic. Thank you very much for that introduction. Much appreciated.
I tell you what, it's not hard to know James Liotta, mate. You've done everything, commercials, films. It's just keeps on going on and on and on.
Well, there's still more to do. I want to become a stripper as well for the hen nights, but I don't know. I'm not getting much luck there.
That new movie's coming out very shortly, mate. They're looking for a few of those.
I'll see how it goes.
Magic Mike number 100's coming out shortly.
Yeah, I can do Magic Bruno instead.
James, tell us a little bit about your background, because I know a lot about your background because I listen to you and see you on podcasts, YouTube. You're just so big, mate. But let me get you to tell the listeners all about you and tell us about how it all started first.
Oh, wow. How long have you got? How long's the show?
Hey, it's my show, mate. I can take as long as I want.
Oh, good. That's good. Look, again, thank you very much for your kind words. Much appreciated. I work for the last, probably 25 years. I've been working as what I prefer to call as an entertainer, which crosses over the world of stand-up comedy, acting, MCing, lots of MC work, all that sort of stuff. And it's all I've done since I left school as a teenager. And I did it as a kid, as a bit of a hobby, as you start off with. You do amateur productions, you do your school plays, your school musicals. You grow a love for it. And then, you decide to make it a bit of a business for yourself.
Listen, you brushed over the bit you said acting. Just tell the people a little bit of your accolades as an actor over the years. You like to not tell people about yourself. James, tell them.
Well, it's like blowing your own horn, isn't it? So
no worries, mate. You can blow your own horn here.
This is therapy. I love it. Look, I've done all sorts of acting gigs. I started off as a young child doing bits and pieces on commercials and TV shows and things like that. I'd even have to take time off school at some point. And back then you needed permission from, I don't know how it works now, but you needed permission from the principal if you were actually working, in a paid setting to leave school and do paid work. So there was all this paperwork that had to be done. So it was a great experience doing bits and pieces. These days, look, I've just joined the cast of Fat Pizza, which is a great thing over the last 2 years. We just finished season 1 and 2. There's a new season being planned on 7 May for next year. So I've got a quite a prominent role on Fat Pizza, playing Paulie Falzone's cousin Lino. But prior to that, I've done heaps of commercials. I've appeared on shows like Thank God You're Here, on Neighbours, Utopia, Upper Middle Bogan, Prank Patrol. That was good fun on the ABC. So all sorts of stuff comes up, Dominic.
It'd be fair to say that people mightn't know the name sometimes, but they certainly know the face, because I've seen you in so many things. And, of course, you're a very big MC around the trap, so you've got some of the best MC gigs.
I do tend to do a lot of MC work, and again, that crosses between more private settings like weddings, and I do a lot of weddings and things like that right around Australia. But also the festivals, the comedy shows, the charity nights, all sorts of things come up. There's lots of MCs out there, and there are a lot of events. So if you're a good MC, you'll get a lot of work. Yeah, listen, just before we say a little bit about yourself, let me tell you, I'm one of the dink and die Australian wogs. For certain, mate. Because I was born. One of those ones that... You go on. I was going to ask, do you mean are you one of those ones that doesn't know how to speak Italian?
No, mate. I know to speak Italian, but I was naturalised Australian in the late 60s. Believe it or not, I came out in the Galileo. So you're talking to one of those guys you're trying to get to, and you've got to me 100%, mate. And coming over there with my dad, my 3 brothers, I got involved. Then I went to school, got involved with the bad years. They were pretty bad years in the 50s and 60s, mate, because I'm telling you, they weren't very nice. The skips against the Italians and the Greeks and the Lebanese, it was pretty bad. But all those things have changed over the years. And just one thing I do want to tell you about, because I know you're good mates with Joe Vardy and a few of the others, correct?
Yes, indeed.
That's right. I think you're just about to put out a show, aren't you?
We've got a show in Victoria, in Rosebud, beachside Rosebud. We've got 5 nights all together. Myself, Joe, Tahir, and George Capignaris. So that's good fun coming up soon.
Yeah, well, I want to take you back to the 80s. I was on a radio station called 2RDJ FM 88.1, which is Burwood, inner city, and all the Italians and all the multicultural areas of city. And I used to have an Italian show with a gentleman called Peter Ciani, who's probably one of the biggest Australian Italian artists ever been produced in Australia, come out in the 60s like me. We had this show, right? And it went really big. And then we had these couple of little young kids that came in about the late 80s at 2RDJ, a guy called MC Maurice and another little guy called Joe Avati. And they said, hey, we want to do an Italian show on this station because you got a lot of the migrants and a lot of the ethnic community that may listen. So we used to we used to get involved with the matured audience, and then I managed to get them this gig for an hour, and the name of the gig was called La Dolce Vita, right? That's
La Dolce Vita, yeah.
No, not La Dolce Vita, La Dolce Vita. So it was
Dolce Vita, which was actually one of the titles of Joe Avati's albums.
100%, right? And that's why I said when you speak to Joe, you can talk to him about that. So they got on air with us, and it became such an amazing show. But the reason I'm telling you this is where multiculturalism over the years, I've been involved with the bad years, but now I've seen all these years change, and a lot of these entertainers have come through the pipe work, and it's just fantastic to see how you can all mingle in, have a great time, and I believe people. I might be wrong here, James. You might disagree, but people like Joe Avati, people like Vince Sereni, and Maria Venuta, and all these people in the early days actually opened up the doors for people like yourselves as the years went by.
Oh. 100%. I know Joe's the one I know most well, and Joe, maybe 5-6 years ago, kind of took me under his wing and gave me a really amazing opportunity to tour with him and be his opening act on tour all around Australia. And that really taught me a lot of stuff about stand-up comedy and about this particular genre as well, because really this genre, we like to call it ethnic comedy. Let's call it ethnic comedy. It's a genre that's very, very popular out there, and not only with the ethnics, you see, the Aussies love it as well, and Joe's been instrumental in teaching me a lot about that as well. But it really has, because we look up to these people, and I'm very lucky to be working with some of my idols now. Not just Joe, but people like George Capignaris.
Well, he actually did one of my son's weddings, so he was fantastic that night. I've just been involved with this area so long. That's why I really wanted to have you on, because I watch you on YouTube. I watch you in the shows you're in. I've already seen the latest Fat Pizza that you're in that, and I said, this guy's great. I've got to have him on my show.
That's very kind. Thank you, mate. Well, look, we've always got all sorts of shows coming up. The other thing I do is I have my great friend, his name's Piero Viavattene. We do the Pippo and Pasquale characters.
Yep, that's right.
We put on stage. We do those online. We're coming to Sydney on March 18th. There's already a couple of hundred tickets sold for that, because these were shows that were meant to happen last year, but they couldn't because of COVID and all that sort of stuff. But March 18th, we're coming back to Sydney. And for one night only, the Pippo and Pasquale show, we'd love to see you all there. So, people can grab their tickets. pippoandpasquale.com.au is the website. And you know what, Dominic? We're the only two people in the world to have a website called pippoandpasquale.com.au.
And you've got a podcast too, haven't you?
We do. With Piero, we also do a weekly podcast. It's called the Janpai Show. Can you work out why we've called it the Janpai Show?
No, you've got me on that one, mate.
Oh, yeah. Look, you know what? It was actually Piero's invention, and he got me as well. But Janpai is actually the first 3 letters of both of our names.
Oh, so right. Okay.
Piero. Yeah. That's the Janpai Show. But we do this. Yes, mate.
No, go on, go, James. You were saying, yep, go on.
We do that weekly. It drops on a Thursday, and you can just search it on all the streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Anchor. All those guys have got it. So it's called the Janpai Show. You don't have to pay for it. We have a bit of fun. And,
and I'll tell you what, the one of the funniest gigs that you've done so far on YouTube, and I've just loved it, is the Corona song. What an I just kept on cackling over that one, mate. Everybody should actually get onto YouTube and have a listen to the Corona song by James.
Corona song.
Yeah.
When I put that together, which was, just changed the lyrics, just the old karaoke routine. Yep. It kind of blew up over a week. I put it out when Corona first hit, and over a week it had this on social media. It had over 300,000 hits and views and stuff, and I think it's grown since then. But it's amazing because people come up to me and go, "Oh, I love the Corona song," and I'm like, I don't even want to hear it again. People love it.
Yeah, listen, you got your background has come from a little bit from your dad, hasn't it? He had lots of influence on your background also, didn't he?
Right, Dominic, he did. My father back in the late 80s and early 90s, right through the 90s actually, in Melbourne. He used to produce and stage his own theatrical productions, comedies and dramas, and live on stage. And this was, they were written by him. He's a very good writer, but all in Italian language. So it's very specific to the Italian community, and probably, the older Italian community that would come out and see this kind of stuff. But I got involved in a lot of those productions, and that's where I sort of built my love for performance. And my first performances were in fluent Italian.
Yeah, and I think wasn't he involved in The Castle too?
He is, He used to do little bits and pieces that would come up on TV, but he actually played Eric Banner's dad in The Castle.
How amazing is that?
I know.
How big is that movie, man?
It's a huge movie, and they still play it 10 times a year.
Oh, it's like TV. Sound of Music, mate. You get so sick of it.
I'd rather watch The Castle than Sound of Music. I have a bit more of a laugh on The Castle. So it became an institution.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring a few of these things in because a lot of people don't realise some of the things. You went to school, you were involved in drama at school, but tell the audience a little bit about after you finished Year 12. What happened then?
Oh, you've been reading my website, haven't you?
I've looked it up, mate. Don't worry about it. I try to be knowledgeable in these interviews.
I tell you, it was a strange thing. Not many people bring up this part, but when I was in about Year 10, I was heavily involved in all the stage musical productions that we did as a school because I loved it. I knew that's where I wanted to be, and I wanted to get as much experience doing that sort of stuff. In Year 10 and 11, no, pardon me, in Year 11 and 12, the school musical director made me assistant director or co-director. So I took a lot of responsibility on in those years with him putting those shows together for the school. Now, when I finished Year 12, that particular teacher, that drama teacher, had left the school, and there was going to be no musical production for my high school. So basically, the high school rehired me for 1 year to produce it, just to do that job.
How amazing is that?
3 days a week. I went from finishing Year 12 to having my own little office at the school, which was a very surreal experience because my teachers then my prior teachers became my colleagues, so to speak. And it was great. And I got paid from the school. So I went back to school after Year 12, but as a worker. And
I could just see you looking at those kids and a lot of your old schoolmates saying, and you thought a wog couldn't make it, eh?
They said, what are you doing back here? Can't you get enough? I said, no, I love it. I came back.
You know, the good thing about...
wonderful.
Yeah, the big thing about all the comedians these days too, they're actually... I'm talking about multicultural now because we know most of the general comedians still make money. But in the old days, the multicultural, they couldn't make a cent. But a lot of them now are actually living on their earnings, which is fantastic, isn't it?
I always say, look, it doesn't matter what comedy you do, but if you're a comedian and you can go to the bank and ask for a home loan based on the fact that you're a comedian and they say yes, then you're onto a good thing. Because that doesn't happen often.
And your life as a broadcaster, mate, you've been on so many radio stations, mate. Like, give up on how many you've been on. I started working in radio when I was about 14, and over the years I have been involved in a lot of radio. I still am. Much of it is community radio in terms of shows, but I have worked in commercial radio here in Melbourne as well, behind the scenes as a technical producer, in promotions. I
I used to drive around the Gold 104 cars and MC their live events and Mix FM and all that sort of stuff here. So radio is a big part of my life as well, as you're doing right now. It's so immediate, it's live, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I've been close to 30 years of it. I'll tell you what, your interviews with, I think it's Cowboy Tex, is it? They're funny interviews, man. I cackle myself every time I listen to those interviews. Is he for real, mate, or what? Is he for real?
He is 100% real. Some people call me and ask me if it's my mate Piero Viavattano. No, it's not Piero. I wouldn't drag him into that. No, he's 100% real. Look, he's a great bloke. He's been calling my radio shows for over 7 years, and he's a bit of fun. And what I've done over the years is I record the chats that I have weekly with him, and I've been just putting them online, and he's been getting a following. The guy doesn't even have social media. Yeah. He's good fun.
No, it's really good. I listen to those all the time, and I just cackle myself to death when you got that guy on.
I stir him, Dom.
Yeah, that's right. And then look, that's what it's all about. Everything. Tongue in cheek. That's what it's all about. Don't get. Look, life's too short. COVID's here. We mightn't be here next year.
That's right. COVID directs everything now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I tell you, I suppose people like yourself, because of COVID, it's probably been a positive and a negative, hasn't it?
Well, look, Dom, I probably would say it's been more of a negative than anything. The positives are slim in our industry, because we really got, us and hospitality got really shut down.
It's called being ripped off, mate.
Show after show.
Being ripped off.
Right. I don't know. The positives maybe are just, the general ones where people maybe, stuck with family a bit more, spend more time with their kids. Things. I don't have any kids, but I'm just looking at other people's positives from it. But we really, as a performer, it's in your blood to perform, and that's what you sustain yourself with. So when it's taken away from you, it's a bit heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. I noticed that you're on Channel 10 and Channel 9 the other day, weren't you? You did a couple of skits on there, didn't you, with them, with the 9 and 10?
I was on Channel 10 most recently. I was interviewed by Studio 10.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So I appeared briefly on Studio 10 about a month ago now. Yeah.
And tell us about your new show. So the new show's in March, you claim. It's coming in March.
The new show, we want everyone to... Yeah, absolutely. It's the Pitbull and Pasquale show. This is our third show of this kind. So it's sketches, stand-up comedy. It's a brand new show, stand-up comedy, audience participation, lots of variety, even video sketches that we do to break things up. And those videos are brand new videos. You'll only see them at the live show. They're not the ones that we put up online. So it's worth getting a ticket and securing a ticket now, because there's only one night that we're doing this in Sydney. It's March 18th. At the Bankstown Sport Club Theatre. It's a
great show, great area, great function.
It is a great area. And, like I said, you go to pippoandpasquale.com.au. It's, some people ask, Dominic, they go, is it all in Italian? I go, no, it's all in English. It's just about us, being Italian and all that sort of stuff. It's all in English. Anyone can come along.
I've been to some of Joe Vardy's shows, and I'll tell you what, about 70% of them are all Australian audience, and they just cackle themselves.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And I think the Aussies love it, because we are so multicultural around Australia. And who doesn't have a next door neighbour that's Italian or Greek or Asian or Lebanese, we all know one another, so we can relate to how we behave.
Now, one thing I was going to mention too about the club you're going to, they've just opened, I don't know if you know this, but they just opened a wine bar and an area for drinking upstairs overlooking the city. Just don't get stuck there, mate, because you won't be doing your show. I
think you've just indicated where the after party will be that night.
It was on TV the other night. Apparently it's amazing. You can just stay up there, order what you want, and you can just overlook the whole city. But it sounds like a great show, doesn't it?
We'll do the work first. We'll entertain the people, and then we might get stuck into the wine afterwards.
Now, I've got a show that's probably going to get you off air, but I'm going to tell you about it anyhow. I was thinking about this for a lot of years. I always watch the comedy shows or the comedy specials on TV, and then most of the comedy shows. But I will say, I'm not being political about this. A lot of them aren't ethnic comedians, right? So I was thinking, why don't we get into the media and say, let's have a great new show. We will call it the Australian Skips, right, against the ethnic Italian, Greek and Lebanese and Chinese and Indian communities, and make it a debate against each other. And and I can actually supply you the police and the security guards, and with a bit of luck, it'll take off.
You know, I'm up for anything. Honestly, I'm up for anything. I don't know what these networks want anymore. But I know you got to be woke. You know, the woke thing, you got to be woken up.
Yeah.
On these shows. So as long as the show's got a woke component, then it might work.
Yeah. Listen, James, it's been great being on. Thank you for tuning in and being involved with Alive 90.5. Thank you for your time, because I know your time's very, very important, and you actually gave me a particular day you could do it rather than any day, which means you're very popular and very, very important guy. We'll be able to put time towards Alive 90.5 in this interview, so I really appreciate that.
You're very kind, my friend, very kind. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me on. I want to say Happy New Year to you and all your listeners as well. I hope it's a great year for all of us.
And same to you, mate. Happy New Year and to your family and everybody here. And say hello to all the boys for me, especially Joe when you say.
I will.
Just say, I spoke to Dominic the other night.
I will speak to him soon, so I'll let him know.
All right, mate. See you later, and I'll, with a bit of luck, I'll catch you at the show.
See you there.
See you, mate.